Okay, so that's recording. And then that's recording. Okay, counting it down again. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
How dare you? Little does the audience know.
Oh, sorry.
But Dan has messed up once again. Tony never ever messes up, but
Never,
Dan
ever.
messed up
He's
again.
Pinnacle of professionalism. That's Tony.
As I was trying to say, as I was rudely interrupted, I'm moving on to greener pastures. However, by the way, my name's TK.
I was just wondering.
I'm gonna leave. Well, it's our finale though, so it's kind of good. The finale of this, anyway. So, I mean, we'll miss you, but I'm sure that we could see you somewhere else. Where could we see you? On Amazon.
Sell out. Getting those Bezos bucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Bezos. Bezos has been real good to me. A lot better than you've been to me, Dan.
TK, I thought we had something special.
Well, I thought so too, but that you're one of the main reasons I'm leaving. No. It's okay. I'll maybe forgive you someday. But if you want to talk again sometime, order me on Amazon today, and you can also order. I just realized I'm doing the wrong voice for this one, and it's usually the other one.
It's canon now.
For the finale of the advertisements of TK for this series, you can buy this on Amazon. Link is on the bottom in the info, and you can also buy a T1, which is somewhere in my room that I'm not going to find.
We lost the advertising bucks like 6 episodes ago. If we're real,
Travis William Larry Kemp will not be happy. Sorry. Oh well. All right, Dan.
Tony.
This is it, man.
This
was the finale.
What a journey.
I guess two. The last 2 episodes happened.
Yeah.
What a journey. There's been ups, there's been downs, there's been ring-arounds. Are you happy or sad it's over?
I'm indifferent that it's over now. And yeah, it certainly was a conclusion. I kind of feel, timing's just a thing, trying to get this out consistently every week. But I kind of feel it's appropriate in this case to just review the last 2 episodes together because they kind of just roll into each other. This
was one of the easiest ones to. I don't even think we talked last week. I think we just knew, like, we can just wait till
that's it exactly.
Next week. After in the middle of maybe 10 minutes into the episode, I'm like, I don't think we need to record about this one until next week.
It's a pretty strange thing because it's the second to last episode existed mainly to tell the viewers what most of them already knew about Wanda.
It was a Wanda origin story,
right? Which has been slowly revealed mostly through discussion over 2 or 3 movies, but this was the first time that we had it straightforward on the screen.
Yeah. Also, where they retconned what the MCU films had done, because the MCU films, what you know about Wanda was Hydra, aka Evil Shield, kidnapped Wanda and the dude who plays Quicksilver, Pietro, when they were kids and did experiments on them, and that was all like we knew. But in what was last week's episode called?
Oh my gosh. I can't even remember.
We're awesome at this.
We are.
I shut off my phone, so I'm not going to click, clack.
Anyway,
in the second to last
episode, they retcon some stuff. They explain some stuff. I think just the biggest reveal is why they were moving through decades of sitcoms, which I think we both called at the beginning of this series. That Wanda is recreating what she knew and her idealized version of reality. And then there's a bit of lead up to her stealing Vision's body and setting up WandaVision, or Westview as we know it.
But she did not steal. Well, so in last week's episode, in the second to last episode, we have the now fully revealed villain, Agnes Everdeen. It's not Everdeen, but
I don't think
Agnes, the antagonist, sort of puts Wanda as a prisoner and goes through the memories of her life to fully form the character that we thought we knew, but apparently we didn't. And growing up in Sokovia with her family during the war that's happening over there,
revolution or something.
Yeah, during the revolution, her brother and her parents, the only way they can get by and have fun were to watch old sitcom DVDs that they would, or VHSs probably. I honestly can't remember, that they obtained from America. And it was like the only thing that they could be happy about. There was even a part where when they're in the memory, they're watching it. It was very Christmas Carol-y, you know, Christmas Past. And there's a scene where like a mom hears a bomb go off outside and the dad looks at her and they like kind of like shut a window or something. So like it was very apparent that this was the only thing that got the family to get by. And I believe Dick Van Dyke Show was young Wanda's favorite show. And then while they're watching it, a bomb shows up, and that bomb is made by Stark Industries, and there is a red light blinking just like the toaster in the first episode's commercial.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was angry about that because I was like, I hope the commercials are something, and it was really just part of memories, which is fine, but you know, I kept digging. But,
looking for those Easter eggs.
Yeah, but eventually it shows that she wasn't. I was always under the impression that she was kidnapped by Hydra, but her and her brother, what's the ward, I want to do this, voluntarily, yeah, they volunteered to help with their revolution to try to fight probably Stark Industries, but basically they thought Hydra was the good way to go, and they found out they put the Mind Stone in front of her. A lot of MCU stuff.
Just a lot of MCU stuff happened, for sure.
Yeah, I think what they revealed was that she was born a witch, but that the Mind Stone made her become the Scarlet Witch. She like obtained even more power from the Mind Stone, and that was like the experiments that she went through with Hydra. But Hydra wasn't under the impression that she was a mutant at all, but she was when she was a kid because they showed her do something when she was a kid. In either case, that was how she obtained her full power. They showed a very, very generic scene of Agnes when she was a witch back in the. I did like that they opened up the episode with the Salem in Salem when Agnes was young.
Right. It seems like she's going to be like burned to the stake, and instead it turns out to be a meeting of her coven, and they are trying her for basically dark spell whatnot she wasn't supposed to do. And then when they all start like zapping her with witch rays, she is able to absorb their energy and bleeds them dry of their life energy forceness.
Yeah, the scene wasn't. The most interesting part of the scene was I never really. We only just found out that it was Agnes all along. We fully found this was when we just found out that she was a villain. And if you don't watch the comics, I didn't think or read the comics. I didn't really necessarily go to, oh, she's a witch. I just thought she was a person with powers. Right. But they go like Salem, and then they put the year down, and I'm like, oh, she's a straight up witch. That's kind of cool. And but the powers part, and she overtakes the powers, I was like, oh, we're going straight back to the MCU stuffy things, bright lights, fantastic CGI.
Yeah, you just described these last two episodes.
Yep. Basically,
in summation,
The my favorite scene of the third to last episode, which was it was Agnes All Along song, was basically the finale of the cool sitcom-y genre twisting. That was the finale, and what we watch in these past 2 episodes is and I know I'm pronouncing this right, denouement, which is really the third act of the entire series. But it is basically the creator going, okay, thank you for letting me do what I had to do. Here you go.
Peace out. Yep. The last 2 episodes are where we witness full Marvelitis.
Yes. Oh man, I don't know why it took us so many podcasts to come up with that term.
It's I think we've talked about this before. At least I know we have in previous podcasts where we talked about other Marvel products, but Marvel consistently has this thing where the first 2 acts have a pretty strong authorial voice that sets the movie apart from other Marvel products. And then the third act of every Marvel movie is the same. And this is no exception. It basically abandons everything that made it unique in the first few episodes and goes full bombast with just a maelstrom of CGI and rays shooting into the sky and people flying around and throwing each other through buildings and everything that I think people who watch Marvel movies enjoy about Marvel movies, which is fine. This is just coming back to different audiences getting different mileage out of these products, because I still enjoy these things. I just have a feeling that like my level of enjoyment is inverted, where I start off with a lot of these things really enjoying them, and then it kind of starts petering out. And I think it's the opposite for others, especially people where I talk to, where they're like, yeah, I just couldn't get into those first 3 episodes and I was really waiting for it to pick up. And then they began enjoying the show a lot more. So part of that just speaks to who we are and what we expect from this. But if I bet go back to our first episode and highlighted the things that we were anticipating in this, we could check off a few of them. Some of the prominent ones being Vision trying to like get close to Scarlet Witch and say, oh, you need to stop this, Wanda, you need to stop, which doesn't actually happen, to be fair. But there is a moment where she is like, energy's radiating from her body and she's trying to like put the town kind of back to what it's supposed to be, and Vision and her children are disintegrating in front of her and crawling their way and reaching out the arms, and like it's the same imagery. It's just a different context. And similarly, there's a moment where Wanda is going super Scarlet Witch and a red beam just like flies out of her and up into the sky, and everybody can see it for miles. And there are these rote shots of them walking out of wherever they're at and just gazing awestruck at the sky and everything. And I'm like, I have seen this at least 37 times in other Marvel movies. Now, I don't even know if there have been 37 Marvel movies, but I've at least seen that 37 times.
Yeah. Even if there were 10 film, if let's say there's only been 10 films, we've seen it 42 times more than likely.
Right.
The thing that's a funny first thing to say, because like after when you saw the purple come out of the witches from the Agnes scene, everything after that, like we've seen all of that before. There's nothing special about any of it. And we can kind of just lump these 2 episodes together.
They're pretty cookie cutter
at this point. So later on, like I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. I'm like, okay. The thing that really made me go like, okay, so I'll start this with a positive with the second to last episode. Mm-hmm. They do this Christmas of Christmas or Ghost of Christmas Past shit. And it's semi-interesting. We do get a visual I did like the visual representation of the Scarlet Witch in the Mind Stone entering into Wanda. I thought that was kind of cool and something that our audience learns. It's very outside of why I love the show, which is the sitcom genre twisting. And I did like at the end of the episode, I did enjoy Agnes going, "Oh my God, I got it. You're not just a witch. You're the Scarlet Witch." When she said that, I honestly was like, that's when I was like, so this episode was basically a half an hour film that was a origin story of who this superhero comic book character is. And I don't think they ever said the words Scarlet Witch in the MCU. I don't think that they have. And I did like the way that was delivered, even though the whole episode was pretty generic. But after, I'm like, that's pretty cool. The credits roll, and we go back to faux shield. What's faux shield? What's it called again? Sword.
It's called Not Shield.
Not Shield. We go to Not Shield, and we go to Hayward. God. Right when I see them, they're like, "Is it ready?" I'm like, "Come on, guys." I just started to like you again. It's like, yeah, it's ready. And what do we get? We get the evil version of Vision.
Evil Vision.
Ooh. And I got so angry. We have seen this way more than 37 times inside and outside the MCU.
Yep.
I am so tired of their greatest foe was themselves. Yeah, like Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim, Wolverine did this not too long ago.
Yeah, Wolverine. Even though I love that, I love Logan.
Logan. That was the movie.
That was the one part I didn't like about Logan.
Yeah,
I was like, we've seen this. And like I said something on Facebook about it, and my friend Mike, who's a big comic book fan, I said, we've seen this so many times, and he goes, yeah, but with what they did, this happened in the comics, so I'm pretty interested in what happens. So fine, granted,
again, built-in audience.
It happened in the comics, but film takes liberties. Take the liberty of saying, let's not do that.
Let's not do this one. Yeah, I know exactly. It's again that gloved hand of the almighty mouse pulling the strings on set. And I want to talk more about that, but also like you did, I want to levy a bit of praise before I launch into things that drove me crazy. Honestly, okay, because I, like you, had the same reactions where just so much of it, I'm like, we have seen so much of this, and we've seen these same cliffhangers for where they're going to pick things up again. So with Vision coming back, inevitably there's a moment where Wanda's like, Vision, is that really you? And then fake Vision starts like crushing her head before real Vision swoops in and starts fighting him. And that scene starts off pretty silly, but it kind of culminates in a little bit of a clever moment where Vision and Vision have a logical, like a battle of wits, if you will, to convince fake Vision that the Vision Wanda created is not the real Vision. And so they have this little bit. You just gave
me such a headache. I know exactly what you're saying.
If
and I know
anybody hasn't watched this, everything I just said is just going to be, it's going to be gibberish.
Nonsense.
And I get that. It's nonsense. But when it actually happens, it's like, it throws a little bit of a wrench into things, because Vision gets across this idea of like, when is something original and when is it a replication or just simulacra of something that's been lost, which ties into a point that he asks Wanda in the very end, which is just what am I? Which is a couple of sweet little bullet points in this otherwise.
The writing of that was
generic moment. What drove me bonkers is that he unlocks Fake Vision's brain so that Fake Vision now has all of Vision's original memories. So Fake Vision now has corporeal form with all of Vision's memories, which means that they can just bring back Vision. And like, no sacrifice is sacred. And that's the thing that continuously happens in all these things. There are two ways to make me not care about a sacrifice. And one is if it's a robot. If it's a robot, it doesn't count. And two is if you're just going to give a loophole to bring the character back. There's no sacrifice in that.
So if I'm remembering correctly, because again, watching this episode was probably the same situation. These episodes were the same situation of you, where instead of being on the edge of my seat and watching, I'm slumped down on my bed and like munching and like, okay, I'm waiting for this to end. But if I'm remembering correctly, in the flashbacks, we see Wanda goes to not Sword's facility. I'm sorry, not Shield's. I said it almost right. Not Shield's facility, and sees Vision's body, but actually doesn't steal it. If I remember right, she didn't steal the body. They created that video. We find out they created the video to basically make her look bad or something.
Oh,
and
right.
she goes to Westview by herself, which I am eventually going to give a compliment to this too, because it involves this scene. She goes to Westview and she creates this sitcom like bubble, and she, using the powers of the Mind Stone, creates another Vision. So Fake Vision is actually the body, and except it is the body without the Mind Stone. And she uses her Scarlet Witch powers that she got from the Mind Stone to make a new faux Vision that's only functional inside Westview, onto technically Fake Vision. That is why this sitcom, the Vision that we're along for the ride for the entire series, says, how come I have he says, how come I have no memories of before this? But yeah, he does absolutely download his memories onto White Vision. It's very confusing and stupid, but the Battle of Wits scene, I saw it coming right when they started fighting. I'm like, I know that they're going to talk. And like, even though I do actually like maybe not allegory, but the metaphor they use for some ship.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. It's the idea is the ship of Theseus, once put in a museum, will rot over time. And how many times, like, if all the boards rot and are replaced, is what remains still the ship of Theseus.
Yeah. And I did like how that Battle of Wits was written, but as they're hovering around and talking, it was like I couldn't get past the facade of like, I've seen this. But when he goes, may I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. That he was going to fly away. And in my head, I went back to the first episode where we talked. And I know that I said this, that I think it's going to end where, even though I was wrong, it wasn't, Wanda, you must stop this. Even though he's kind of trying to stop her, it was, you have to kill me, Wanda. You have to. That was a variation of what actually happens in the series.
Yeah, kind of.
She like sacrifices her. So, you know, we get in the final episode, we get all these beautiful colors and whatnot.
Except for when they aren't beautiful, because tangent here, anytime they like remix an original character costume, as I do with Scarlet Witch finally becoming her for Scarlet Witch stuff, it's always picture like Photoshop and having the colors like shaders open. All the colors are slightly muted and slightly darkened. And it's
yeah,
that's the transition here too, where it just feels obligatory and like so samesies to all the rest of the visual design. these character costumes.
I will say when I said beautiful, I was putting in air quotes without actually putting in air quotes.
Okay.
It is the same, like, not great stuff, but it's because it's the same stuff that we see. And I wonder if that their budget is really limited on scenes like that, because nothing really comes to mind of looking cool. Like, my friend wanted to talk about the Salem scene. He goes, that was cool, right? I'm like, I thought it was cool that we saw a scene in Salem and that's how old this villain is. Mm-hmm. But once I saw the purple witch rays, I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
God.
that's another thing too, is that I get super fatigued with Marvel action that's become more and more like Dragon Ball Z, where you can shoot as many energy balls or beams or whatever, and people can get slammed into the ground and punch through concrete and whatever. And it's like, there's no sense of like impact or consequence, because something like that lives so far outside of actuality that I'm like, none of this feels like it has any kind of bearing on what's actually happening, because it's all sci-fi colorful craziness just flying around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's almost all of that final episode was that. One of very few redeeming qualities of it that I enjoyed was, I think Agnes or Wanda. See, I don't remember the episode that well because that's how much, yeah. The town wakes up.
Yeah.
And they start like approaching Wanda, like, what the fuck's wrong with you, bitch? They're not exactly like that, but they go like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? And she's like, I'm sorry. What have I done? Like that type of scene. I kind of enjoyed that because she's the weight of what she's done to this town is finally set in. So she's starting to see the fault in her ways. Mm-hmm. Fight. She, you know what I love is in television shows where they show previously on, that if they show a certain part,
you better believe it's Chekhov's gun. Exactly. I know where you're going with this.
So let's say, hypothetically, there was a scene you don't remember whatsoever in an episode that was such a toss away line that if you didn't know that, and it's going to be super important later, the person that's in charge of the previously of will throw it in. And the way they'll throw it in is not very subtle.
It's pretty on the nose.
It comes out of nowhere. It's, I'm Agnes. These runes control my powers. Though, anyways,
you can't do magic. This is an Agnes only zone.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The tables are turned right at the end.
Yeah. And what a big surprise that was.
That was another thing that I was going to bring up, which is another just like obligatory thing that Marvel does is like, look at us being clever. A trick that was used earlier gets reversed so that our hero uses it. But again, it's the thing with the runes, and Wanda in the end takes away Agnes's power because Wanda creates runes around them. So Agnes can't do magic, which stood out to me. And I was like, well, yeah, of course, because it was something that was just like so made up and arbitrary early on that it's like, sure, yeah, I guess we could have this happen. Like, she's been flying through life in the last like 3 hours or something, but I guess now she just knows how to do runes, even though all she's done before is like levitate stuff and magically make Westview and be able to throw around some witch energy. But because it's been mentioned earlier in the show, it's now just a thing that she can do in a way that will seem cheeky and clever.
Mm-hmm. And it was not very clever. Like, even I don't want to harp on this one so far, but I think everybody gets. I doubt anyone in the world thought, Oh, you know what she did? Agnes had runes, and she
So
did
she
what she
did
thought.
runes.
Wanda's smart.
Wanda's so smart.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a. Oh, it was. You know what it was supposed to be? Was a. I'm inevitable. And a Tony Stark, or clink, clink, and Tony Stark had his own glove and he took the jewels off. That's what I think that scene was. That's an example of like the tables have turned once again, and she did something, and it wasn't. It really wasn't. You're just waiting for it to happen the whole time.
Yeah, while all of this is going on, something that also really bothered me in how much buildup there was to how little resolve is everything going on with Monica in the last 2 episodes, where there's been this transition to bringing her in as like a super person, and then there's so little payoff for her in the end of the show.
Yeah, I don't remember her doing anything except for defeating Pietro,
which I also didn't understand, because it's understood that like Agnes was controlling Pietro somehow, and Pietro has Quicksilver abilities. So at one point, Monica is confronting him, and he like flexes his finger out and knocks her back and whatever, because apparently that's another thing you can do with super speed. Sure. But then like something clicks in Monica, and she sees that Pietro's wearing some super spooky dark magic necklace, and even though we've never seen before, and even though he like effortlessly knocked her to the ground at one point, she now like shoulder checks him and throws him over her shoulder and like rips the necklace off, and then apparently it like reverts him back to a normal person with not Quicksilver. Was he not Quicksilver, and just somehow he had Quicksilver powers because necklace or something? I don't know how that entire scene resolved.
I love the genuine confusion your
I'm
tone
genuinely
is.
confused.
So it's going to sound like I'm defending this scene, but I'm really not. I'm going to try to explain it from what I've gathered anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a reveal. Well, okay, so I don't get the necklace shit. The necklace shit is basically the necklace was Agnes's own hold on somebody to make Wanda think that he was Pietro, because the second to last episode she revealed that she had to create a fake Pietro to help her think that she was really talking to Pietro for some reason. I don't know. And the only way she could do that was through this necklace, which probably had runes on it. I don't know. I saw the necklace, and if I was still as interested in this episode as much as I was in the first half of the series, I would have played it back. I would have looked further. I don't care anymore. So what I've gathered is she says throughout the series, Agnes, which I can't remember what her name is.
Agatha Harkness.
What was it?
Agatha Harkness.
Agatha, thank you. So when we knew her as Agnes always talked about her husband, Ray. And we find out that Pietro's name is Ray Boner, which now this I thought was hopefully clever. Either that or I'm making it clever, but it's basically unclever. So I told you about the Evan Peters, who plays Pietro, was Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, and Fox recently bought it, and so everyone basically thought like this was the introduction to the rest of the X-Men. But they said, "You're not Pietro. Your name's Ray Boner." And I think the dumbass joke of that is basically like, "Ha, audience, you thought too much of it. It's just some guy named Ray Boner. You thought way too much into it. It was just a necklace. Don't worry about it." So I think that was like a kind of like a middle finger to Marvel audiences, I think, but who knows, because, you know, these episodes are really not great. But yeah, I agree that with Monica, who like I said, I was really enjoying. I personally liked her, like, even though it was generic, her fight through this bubble to become this superhero with powers anyway was going to lead more than just a "No, Wanda, I will not back down" scene, but instead it was a poorly planned out defeat of Pietro. It was terrible because she didn't even like create super speed for herself. Like, they didn't do any special effects with her doing the shoulder check. And no offense, Evan Peters, but maybe you yourself, Evan Peters, not your character, I think you, Evan Peters, even knew, like, this is kind of stupid. I don't know how I'm gonna fake this. And when you get like thrown over, rewatch that scene, you hear and it sounds like really bad. Like, I think even him was like, he probably went up to the directors like, "Hey, how is she doing this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know, I can't do anything."
Right. At this point, he's had the evil necklace the director has had evil necklace on and is being controlled by Agatha. Anyway,
by Mickey.
By Mickey.
Yeah.
The other bit of payoff for Monica is confronting her director, the evil sword director, who shoots at the kids, Wanda and Vision's kids.
Yeah, dude, chill out, Hayward. Jesus.
And the bullets like pass through Monica and then fall down.
I forgot about that.
So there's a little bit of that, which, again, one other tangent thing, when all of the family, Wanda, Vision, and their two kids come together in a fighting stance, it's literally like the same shot and formation as The Incredibles.
The Incredibles, yeah.
Anyway,
it looked cool, but
sure,
yeah.
It's just that The Incredibles did it.
Yeah.
But I digress. So then there's a scene where like Hayward's trying to escape, and Darcy runs a truck into him and pins him against something else, and that's it for Hayward. Who cares? Yeah, exactly.
I hate Darcy so much.
Yeah, she's here too, I guess. Meanwhile, there's a bit also where like Agent Wu he's put in handcuffs, and then they're like, let's just go put him in a barn, and we don't have to watch him or anything. And of course,
when they place him on the hay, that whole like, I'm going to sit down on the counter as a prisoner
right,
and just chill out and
like,
secretly grab this key.
Check his hands or anything. Like, somebody had to take those handcuffs on him, and they weren't like, "Hey, what's your hand? Hey, buddy, I know I'm like uncuffing you right now, and I just happen to notice that you've got a fist clenched and there's something in your hand." But no, he picks the locks and calls in reinforcements or something. I don't care. It was such a whatever thing. Like, I'm not gonna harp on it too much because, again, it's just whatever. If anything, the part that I just want to get back to is like the denouement, as you were talking about, especially with the bubble closing in and Wanda saying goodbye to her kids and Vision, which is really missing the emotional punch that I thought it needed, because like she's tucking her kids to bed knowing full well that they're eventually going to cease to exist, and she's just kind of at ease with it. And the same thing goes for Vision, where it's just like there's a real lack of like the tragedy of the moment. It's sort of just kind of glossed over, and part of that is because like we know that these characters are going to interact again. That's one of the lines that they have together is Vision says, Wanda, if we've already said goodbye once before, and she says, then it stands to reason we'll say hello again. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But like the kids were a big part of the show, and you're surprisingly cool with just knowing that they're going to not exist anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is she only knew him for like 2 weeks.
I guess that's true.
But my argument is she was so protective of those kids, like throughout, that she was basically a mother. She talks about being a mother and all of that. But yeah, I really tried to be invested in the scene. Like, I think the only part where I was like, I felt something was when they said goodnight and the door starts to close. There's a hint of you seeing her like she's about to like cry or something. Hopefully she was crying. That's the last time she's seeing her fake kids. But that hint was, I was so like zombified watching this that I was like, oh, she's gonna close Westview down, so those kids aren't gonna exist anymore. That's a big decision. Like that was the hint that it gives you. And we get to this scene, this long goodbye scene that's very, very similar to the long goodbye scene that we had in Infinity War. And like,
yeah, no
offense to that scene in Infinity War. The only reason I liked that scene in Infinity War was because Thanos shows up and goes, oh, that sucks, and reverses time and pulls that motherfucker out of his head and tosses his dead body. I was like, whoa. So that had a payoff. The payoff for this was like, even though it's nothing against Paul Bettany or Elizabeth Olsen, or like, I think the biggest like feeling I had was these two actors had such great chemistry that they made these characters' romance believable. The flashback scene that they show of Vision going into, and this was second to last episode, going into Wanda's room, and she shows him one of the shows that she watches, and he sits down on the bed, and he's like, oh, this is funny. And she goes, you have no idea what you're laughing at, do you? He goes, no. Like, that scene I genuinely really liked. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. So I do believe that they did their romance extremely well. And I finally, like, with that scene, I bought, like, okay, yeah, of course she would create all of this for him. But with that goodbye scene, it didn't quite hit it for me. But right after it, they do bookends, and the bookends in this case isn't the beginning. Well, it is the beginning of Westview and the end of Westview. When the bubble closes, she is back at the space where she came to create Westview in her same outfit next to the same car she drove in. That I really liked. That I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. That is, you know, we've been on this journey. Like, if that scene was in the first episode, but that would give away too much, it would be even more impactful. But I did really enjoy that she looks exactly the same. It's like almost the same time of day. And, you know, she gets into her Scarlet Witch outfit. She's like full on Scarlet Witch. But I did like that part. But then we have even more denouement. And she's like full on Scarlet Witch with the outfit and everything. She finally chose a lane with her accent.
Which comes back again.
Which comes back. But I thought it was less... It sounded somewhat better, and this is me trying to defend it as much as possible, but it sounded somewhat better. But we now have a warning from Agatha, like, you don't know what you've done. You don't know what you've done.
Okay, really quick, because you brought it up, I want to talk about the resolution with Agatha, because the punishment that Wanda comes up with for her is to have Agatha be Agnes again, and basically just like none of her witch powers and just under Wanda's control and like this regular old person. But would it not stand to reason that when Wanda's whole bubble goes down, that the whole Agnes character would go away too, and Agatha would just be herself again?
I think that you're too smart. That's the end of my sentence. I think if anyone's still listening, it's very apparent that we've made very good points on how they've rushed the fuck out of the end of this series. So I think that my answer to that is she's so powerful now that she can just do it real quick. But there probably isn't a good answer for that whatsoever.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's fine. Like it's fine. That's again how I feel about the majority of Marvel conclusions is that they're for the most part fine. Like the things that I hop on are probably like not even in the foreground for most viewers. And I get that. Part of it is just like me having seen so many of these things and just recognizing the patterns that they keep going through time and time again, that I'm like, okay, yep. So this happens. Oh, I noticed this one little like discrepancy because that's what my mind is now latching onto. It's just like on autopilot for the rest of the story. So I pick up on things like this, which may have like occurred earlier in the series, but because what they were doing in the beginning of the series was different from everything that I saw in Marvel before, I was into it. And I was willing to like bypass, like mentally and even subconsciously bypass other discrepancies because it was something fresh. And I just didn't have that leniency in my brain for the end of this. And there are two post-credit sequences, which I don't even know if they're worth talking about because they meant nothing to me.
No, they are worth talking about.
Okay.
So first of all, the little explanation that you did, it makes me feel like that you've been in this like really, really unhealthy relationship with someone for the past 20 years. And like all your friends are telling you like, dude, she's great. She's great. You should really keep going out with her. And you're like, we don't get along. We don't have any shared interests. Every once in a while we get along. And like, sometimes I love it. And towards the end, I really thought I was digging her, but it turns out it was for the wrong reasons. But I don't know. But I'm going to make sure that you hold on to this relationship and continue torturing yourself. Anyways.
As long as there is a Marvel product, we are contractually obligated to talk about it.
Absolutely. 100%. And I will say, even though that Agnes scene didn't make sense, I like two things about it. One, you have no idea what you've done. So they're foreshadowing that Scarlet, we now know like the awesome power that Wanda has, at least a little bit more, and her going full Scarlet Witch. This is like a warning of what is yet to come. I also like that Agnes is basically she's definitely going to show up again because she wasn't defeated. And it's going to be like a Hannibal Lecter type of thing. It's going to be something we've seen 1,000 times before, but I love Catherine Hahn so much that I'm actually looking forward to it. Yeah.
She elevates that role so much, even at the end.
So good. So good. Now, and also I wanted to say that cat, I didn't hear you, you didn't hear me, but I hated that Kat Dennings scene so much. And I also hated later because he goes, have fun in jail. Like, who in any of watching this program is like, you go, you? Like, no, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Woo! You finally get your moment to shine, Darcy.
And you shined so bright like a diamond. No, like a fucking stone. But then like Randall Park or Monica goes, hey, where's Darcy? It took 9 episodes of this podcast to finally remember her character name. Yikes. Where's Darcy? Oh, she must have just left. I'm like, you gave her that as her last scene? Yikes. But anyways, the show ends and we go to our first post-credit scene. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that everyone and their mothers was expecting to see Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, go, well, hello, Monica, we've never met. I'd like you on an assignment. Like, that's what I expected. Instead, we got somebody show up and they turn into the alien thing from Homecoming. And she goes, there's someone that you should meet. And we all know it's Nick Fury. But like I would have I'd rather that scene not be there than you not give me Samuel L. Jackson, because that's what everyone expected. And it was disappointing to just be like, someone wants to meet you. Like,
right.
We all were waiting for Nick Fury and you gave us not Nick Fury, but he does want to meet. So what I'm guessing is we couldn't book Sam. He was too pissed off about Endgame.
Yeah, that was such a weird scene because my wife and I were sitting there and she turns to me and she's like, who was that? I'm like, they're the alien people. You know, we watched Captain Marvel together. Do you remember that? And she's like, I don't remember anything about that movie.
Yeah. I liked Captain Marvel personally, but in any case, like it wasn't clever or anything. It was so like, ugh, whatever. And the second one happens, and for me, the first thing I thought of when I saw that cabin was, wow, did you watch Dexter?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you didn't? All right. Well, for anyone that's listening, did anyone think about the last episode of Dexter? Because that's what I thought. Had a very similar final scene. But when they go in there, we see her doing some Doctor Strange shit, and you hear like screams of help as she's brushing through this book. And that's like, I don't know comic books, but I do know that she's supposed to be in the multiverse. Wanda's going to be in the multiverse of madness, which is Doctor Strange 2. And I think that she may even be the big bad of this whole new part of the MCU after Thanos. Maybe, I don't know. But in any case, I liked it because it seemed really, really dark. And I liked not knowing what it was. Granted, it wasn't anything special, but I don't know. It was an unease scene, and yeah, I kind of dug that.
I think the more uneasy and like kind of wait what side of it is that we have this like shot of the outside of this cabin, and Wanda is sitting there like drinking coffee or something, and then it goes inside the cabin, and wait. It's actually Wanda as Scarlet Witch going through this book. So is she like projecting herself into existence and like there's a second version of her that's like living normal life and another version that's like pulling the strings and doing crazy Scarlet Witch stuff. I don't know.
I'm thinking it's my hypothesis is it's going to be a split personality type of thing. Like there's Wanda and there's the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And like that last scene was kind of a metaphor of Wanda's chilling in this cabin, but inside her mind, the Scarlet Witch is up to no good. But Wanda herself is content with being away from society. So that's what I think, but who knows? But overall, the show is worth watching.
Yeah, it's so hard. I don't know. It's really hard to just like pan most Marvel products as like not worth watching. I always feel like, and you know, it's partly strategic where it's like, it always manages to hook me to a point where it's like, well, I might as well finish it. And
that's what I felt
then
these
it gets
past 2 episodes though.
And then it gets me to that point for for all these other things where it's like, well, I enjoyed these characters and these directors even in their previous efforts. I might as well watch this one too. Mm-hmm. So it's always leading me along with, well, I might as well. I'm rarely feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this Marvel product to come out. It's just, this is out. Everybody's watching it and talking about it. Well, I might as well.
Yeah, I might as well get on this boat that everyone's on.
It's disappointing just because I was so into the voice and vision of those first 3 episodes, and even like coming back to episodes 5 and 6 and whatever, like
after the not Shield scene or not Shield right, episode,
after episode 4. But I really dig that whole the style of comedy and the weirdness and the genre awareness of the premise of the show. And it's one of those situations. Guardians of the Galaxy did the same thing, where it's like, wow, when that movie got going, I was so into it. And then it just gradually got closer and closer to Act 3. And I just get to the point where I'm like, I've officially watched 30 minutes too much of this.
Yeah, it's turning into the same ball of, I don't want to say trash because I still get
trash. It's just that it's like, it's done. It just feels
it's not
lazy.
Trash. It's recycled. It's recycled.
It's one step above trash because it's recycled.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, even though I'd say it's pretty apparent that, I mean, with this show, I think with this show that you and me were basically on the exact same wavelengths all the time. I think in general with MCU, I enjoy more of like the recycled substance than you do. But like with this show, we were on very, very same wavelengths, specifically episode to episode. But with this compared to other things, I think they took the, besides Infinity War ending the way it did, I would say that this is the biggest risk that the MCU has ever tried. Like, hey, let's try confusing the audience, doing this genre bending thing where they're watching something that they've never seen before. But don't worry, we'll gradually go into the third act shit that we always do, and we'll have it not Shield. But I'm glad that they did that. But I will say also, I think I hope that the audience, the general audience, started to realize after these last 2 episodes that maybe I liked the first half more than the second, because what I read online is audiences are divided of how WandaVision ends. And I'm thinking that division of negativity is set in, well, the first half I've never seen before. The second half shit I've seen a billion times. So hopefully they'll decide to take more risks in the future, but who knows?
Yeah, in a rare instance, I'd like to get to a point where Marvel takes a page out of Fox's book and we have something like Logan, where there's just like, it's a movie specifically about finality and about send-offs, and you go into it with just a feeling of like, this is the end, and like I'm kind of braced for it. And yeah, that's again one of the things that makes it so frustrating whenever Marvel pulls this stuff of like acts of sacrifice which ultimately don't hold water, because we can bring characters back at any point.
Yeah, there wasn't really a resolution in this, like, whatsoever.
I mean, it's right. If anything, this serves as more of an appetizer for upcoming Marvel products, which is just a shame, and it just kind of makes it seem more disposable than I think it was at the beginning, because as we've talked about before, there are ways that we could have stuck with the same beats for most of the story and just maintained a lot of the tension and the atmosphere that existed in the beginning. It's not specifically what happens that's like tired, it's how it happens. Mm-hmm. And we could even keep the same plot points and resolution ultimately. But if there was just more of that artistic control that there was in those first 3 episodes, I would have enjoyed it so much more.
Yeah. Or at least when you walk away from it completely with only one episode. You can make your last episode an hour long and it can all be the recycled substance, but give us more of a taste of what we used to have besides Agatha turning into Agnes for 3 seconds.
Yeah,
that was probably the last that we saw of the sitcom.
Right, and I agree. That's kind of why it feels not like a betrayal, but ultimately like a deflation, because there's none of the DNA of the beginning of the show in that last episode.
Mm-hmm. None. Deflation's a perfect word for it. And it's almost like they put a pin, they popped a balloon with it instead of, they didn't ease it out. They did not ease it out. Did not ease out the air. I saw a balloon. I went to look at you and I said, "Hey, the balloon's still there." And you're like, "What balloon?" And I look over and it's fucking gone. But
you don't deserve this balloon, you buffoon.
Yeah, what balloon? Oh well.
Oh well.
I'm looking for. Well,
I can't wait to go through all of this all over again with Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you watched the trailer for it, but it was underwhelming. And I wasn't interested. I when I heard about these shows, I wasn't interested in WandaVision before they came out with anything about it. But when it came out with like small little snippets of that, I'm like, oh, this looks good. When they came out with small snippets of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm like, oh, this looks like the good action of the film Winter Soldier that I'm going to enjoy. But like the mystery and the genre shit of WandaVision was what I was most excited for with these 3 upcoming shows. Mm-hmm. But watching the trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that they left a lot out on purpose, but I will watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the original Captain America Winter Soldier is still possibly my favorite Marvel product, and if not, it's at least top 3. And part of that is because there's still a lot of familiarity in Act 3, but the way it is handled is very different from all of the Marvel products that came after it, where there's a crunchiness and there's a lot of practical effects, and there's it maintains that feeling of Bourne Identity in the superhero universe all the way throughout that film, which is why I think that it holds my attention much better than the majority of Marvel films that came after it.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll bring that much to your table too with this series, but I don't know. I'm after finishing WandaVision and after going through what I did for the last 2 episodes, I'm a lot more cautious about my excitement for Winter Soldier and Falcon. But it was fun. It was fun overall. I had fun. Just the end of the ride was okay, I'm ready for this ride to end. Let's go.
It's
I gotta use the
feeling
bathroom.
That you get after you've been on a super great roller coaster, and then you sit waiting for the other cars to move through before you can get off of the roller coaster.
Yeah, and there's still 2 or 3 things to look at, but there's no more ride.
There's no more
it's
ride.
The same
now we're just kind of waiting to get off.
You waited for carts before. You know what it's like. It's not any different.
The uneasiness that you get in this metaphor is you're walking away and you hear someone that's going up the ramp for the beginning of their ride go, "Wait, stop! My seatbelt isn't on!" And like the crowd, you're like, "What?" And the crowd like pushes you away, and you never hear what happened with that situation until the next time you go visit Cedar Point. I think modern metaphors are my favorite part of these. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. So, hey, show's out now. So all of your friends who are saying that they were going to wait on watching this entire video series can now get mad at you retroactively now that they've watched the show and probably enjoyed it and listened to you dunk on it for the last hour.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think for the, like I said, from what I read online, most people were pretty pissed off, but I think like all of my friends that have said like, I can't watch your videos because I want to marathon WandaVision. I think that they're going to cheat and skip to this episode. They're gonna be like, wow, right. You really fucking hated that show. I didn't hate the show. I hated these episodes.
These last couple of episodes.
The recycled substance. But in any case, if you would like to hear us more, tune in for more projects with Dan and I, because we got long lives to live. And
what else are we going to do? We're going to fill them with TV and microphones.
Exactly. Until next time, for whatever may come. Dan's got something coming very soon for you guys.
I do.
Very, very soon.
Working on something
very
fun.
Exciting. Can you give us any sort of anything for what's coming to us?
It's a really highbrow, film and media show. It's just a conversation with a bunch of friends from film school, and it's full of a lot of highbrow, erudite discussions. And definitely, we definitely don't get derailed with movie pitches that may or may not be inspired by the classic works of Tom Hanks.
I think a good working title is Derailment. Not that derailment happens, but it's. I was one of the lucky few that got a taste of it, and I'm very excited for you guys to listen to it. It's fantastic. You may someday hear another familiar voice in it, but with what their original cast is pulling off, it's fucking great. It's fantastic.
Well, thank
I love
you.
It so much.
We're pretty excited, but until then, our sign off, is it the same?
Wait. I'm Tony. Who are you?
Coming back down slowly because we don't have the same kind of climax. It's a metaphor for the show.
Oh yeah. Disappointment. Thank you for listening, guys. Take care.
See ya.